You're listening to 90.5 FM KSJS San Jose.
What's going on? Happy Thursday evening, y'all. Dale Watkins here. We're in store for another episode of Sports Weekly right here on 90.5 KSJS, which will start up right after this.
The views and opinions of the following program are not necessarily those of KSJS, its staff, students, San Jose State University, or the CSU, who are the license holders of this station. Any comments or questions, please write to KSJS at 1 Washington Square, San Jose, California, 95192-0098. Attention, Nick Martinez.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
You're tuned into Sports Weekly on 90.5 FM KSJS.
Post-game show is brought to you by... Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.
Bringing you the latest news in Bay Area and San Jose State sports. This is Sports Weekly.
That's right. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Sports Weekly every Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m., right here on 90.5 FM KSJS San Jose. I am your host, Dale Watkins. Got a big show for you guys today, a lot I want to get to. But first and foremost, I want to send my thoughts and prayers, my best wishes to everyone affected by the recent campfires and the ones in Butte County and down in L.A., those who just lost everything, those who have lost their homes, those who have lost loved ones. Man, my heart breaks for you guys, and so my best wishes to you guys. I hope that you're able to heal soon, and God bless you, all of you. You are some of the strongest people on the planet, and you will come back stronger than ever. And I want to thank our first responders, our firefighters, who, while everyone is fleeing away from trouble, they're the ones running to it. So thank you to our firefighters, first responders. Thank you so much for all you do. And without further ado, let's get the show started. Got a lot I want to get to today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sit back, lock that dial, and enjoy some good old-fashioned filtered sports talk here on Sports Weekly. Going to talk a little bit of Raiders, Niners, of course. Carmelo Anthony has been officially waived by the Houston Rockets. We'll talk about that a little bit. And get into this Monday's heavyweight matchup between the Chiefs and Rams, both at 9-1. Talk a little bit of San Jose State football, men's and women's basketball, and some college football picks. So I will get to all that and more. But first, we start off with Jimmy Butler, the former Minnesota Timberwolf. The Jimmy Butler hostage situation is finally over. The four-time All-Star guard is headed to Philly. The Timberwolves finally agreed to a trade that would send Butler and second-year forward Justin Patton to the 76ers in return for Robert Covington, Dario Saric, Jared Bayless, and a second-round pick far down the road in 2022. Following a long, drawn-out period of inactivity and frustration, Butler finally got his wish granted to be traded out of Minnesota. And we could see this manifesting from a mile away ever since the preseason began. He's had a lengthy holdout throughout the preseason, sat out 3 games for quote-unquote rest. And after the Timberwolves' recent loss to the Sacramento Kings in Sacramento, head coach Tom Thibodeau made it clear that they can't win with Jimmy Butler and the dysfunction that comes with having him in the locker room and on the court butting heads with the two young stars for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. In 8 games with the Timberwolves, Jimmy Butler averaged 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. And like I said, he held out all of preseason and sat out 3 games for rest, but he did happen to play against the Warriors, and he did play well in that game. So Butler headed to the city of brotherly love. Like I mentioned, he butted heads with Cat and Wiggins, but will he butt heads with his new teammates, 2 young budding superstars in the NBA, in Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons? That remains to be seen. He forms another big 3 in an era of big 3s. It seems around the league, among NBA circles, that you need a big 3 just to contend for a championship, just to make the conference championship. To be quite honest, for Minnesota, they got rid of 2 good shooters in Saric and Covington, in exchange for kind of an average one in Jimmy Butler, and I'm kind of interested in the dynamic of how this will all work with Jimmy Butler in the lineup with Simmons and Markelle Fultz. If they're all on the floor at the same time, who's the one shooting the ball? Who's Jimmy Butler going to kick out to once he enters the paint? He loves the drive and kick. He doesn't quite push in transition. He loves the ISO game, pull up jumpers, pull up threes. So that'll be interesting to see. That is an area of concern that I'm going to be looking out for. And potentially, defenders could double Jimmy Butler, leaving Simmons or Fultz wide open, because honestly, neither of those 2 can make jumpers from outside 12, 15 feet. I think Simmons and Fultz are combined, have made 3 threes altogether so far this season, and it feels like forever in between each of those. But Jimmy Butler, he's on his way to Philadelphia, and Covington, Saric, the notable ones, headed back to Minnesota. Jimmy Butler can ink a 5-year, $190 million extension with the 76ers if all goes well, if all goes according to plan, according to script. And he played pretty well in his debut with the 76ers in a loss to the Magic. He had 14 points in that one. It's kind of funny. 76ers with Jimmy Butler, they lost in their first game. T-Wolves, the revamped T-Wolves, they won in their first game. So without Butler as well. Let's move on now to a topic that I'm sure a lot of sports fans everywhere are familiar with. Golden State Warriors, what is going on between Draymond Green and Kevin Durant? This all started in Monday night's loss. They were in the midst of a 2-game losing streak. They lost last Thursday against the Milwaukee Bucks, just got blown out by the Greek Freaking Company at home. 134-111 was the score in that one. And then losing in overtime to the LA Clippers on Monday night. But this all started when Draymond Green forced Lou Williams of the Clippers into a tough shot. The score was tied, and Draymond gets the rebound. He actually steals the rebound away from Kevin Durant, which I'm sure he got far too used to with Russell Westbrook in OKC. But Draymond Green takes the rebound from KD with 5 seconds left. KD's calling for the ball, looking to get a last shot up, but Green opts to take it himself. Dribble close to the length of the floor, weaving through traffic, looking to pass out to Clay at the top of the key, or hit Kevon Looney, who was streaking to the basket, but lo and behold, he lost the ball, lost the handle of it, dove for the loose ball, and time would expire in regulation. And tensions boiled over into the ensuing huddle, and long story short, the Warriors lost in overtime, but coming back out of that huddle, Draymond Green appeared to repeatedly call Kevin Durant the B word. KD was, for us, adept lip readers out there, I think he said something along the lines of, "Man, that's why I'm out, man," as he was making his way back out onto the court. DeMarcus Cousins, of course, still out rehabbing to that torn Achilles. Of course, he's taking a while. He's taking his sweet time coming back to the Warriors, which might be concerning. A lot of players with that kind of injury have made it back onto the court sooner or at this point, and DeMarcus is still out with that Achilles. But DeMarcus playing the role of peacemaker in that mini skirmish amongst 2 stars in this league, and Draymond was he was fined. He was suspended by his own team. He was suspended for Tuesday night's game against the Atlanta Hawks, which they won. But I'm really surprised. I'm kind of low-key shocked that the Warriors would suspend Green for something like this. It wasn't even an altercation with a coach, an altercation with an official. It wasn't for a punch. It wasn't for a cheap shot. It was nothing like that. It was banter, strict banter going back and forth between him and a teammate, which we see in the NBA nearly every game, every week. It's a day in and day out thing for teammates to have disagreements, but it's all in good taste that they want to win. And that competitive fervor, that competitive fire in Draymond Green, I think, just got the best of him. And we know that Draymond's an emotional player. He plays with a chip on his shoulder every single night. An undersized power forward that's looking to to punish bigger power forwards. And the heart and soul of this team, we love the phrase the glue guy of a team, and that certainly is what Draymond is to this Warriors squad. Certainly not the best player, but definitely one of the most important players on this Golden State Warriors team, especially during this championship era. But Draymond might have crossed the line. I think he did. There's certain things that you don't say between man-to-man conversation, and calling another man the B word to not even to his face, but to somebody else. So basically talking behind his back, he told Boogie he's a B word, he's a bleep repeatedly, and that definitely crossed the line. And good catch on our cameras for catching that. And this sent shockwaves throughout NBA circles. The NBA media landscape speculating nonstop ever since that altercation Monday night. Is KD going to be gone after this season? He has a player option for next year, which he can decline. He can become an unrestricted free agent next summer. And it's kind of funny. The Warriors brought him out to the Chase Center in San Francisco a couple of days ago, and it looked like Bob the Builder out there. If Bob the Builder was 7 feet tall and can pull up from 30, that would be Kevin Durant right there with how he looked. But just reading his face, reading his body language, he didn't seem too invested with the Chase Center, the renovations being made there, and the idea of playing in a brand new state-of-the-art arena in the city by the bay. So, I watch my fair share of podcasts and talk shows, sports talk shows, and they're pointing out that the Knicks could make a run at him. They've always been in a run for marquee free agent, but have swung and missed on pretty much every occasion. The Boston Celtics, of course, his hometown Washington Wizards, the Los Angeles Lakers, if he really wants to team up with LeBron and really run up his ring count. But yeah, we know KD wants to be better than LeBron. That's why he was devoid of any rings, and that was always going to be one accolade department that LeBron would always have an advantage on until he decided to go to Golden State and decided that was his best decision, best chance that he had at winning not just a championship but multiple championships. But that's interesting to see, but it appears that Draymond and KD have made amends, walking into practice together in good spirits today. That's what our video cameras caught, and making all this drama for nothing. Of course, the sports media world loves to overreact. It's always overreaction. It's overreaction day every single day. With the Warriors, just because the spotlight is always on them as back-to-back NBA champions. Steph Curry, he's still out with an adductor injury that he suffered and sustained through in that game against the Milwaukee Bucks, trying to contest a Greek freak alley-oop, but was obviously unsuccessful there. He's going to be reevaluated in 10 days, so he's going to be out past Thanksgiving, and will probably make his return, I believe, the 29th when the Warriors are in Toronto. That will be a marquee matchup for the ages. Warriors at Raptors, two teams at the top of their respective conferences. KD versus Kawhi Leonard. I'm gonna go get my popcorn and gummy bears for that one. But Warriors appear to have squashed the beef, but they're keeping these talks in-house, as KD said in his post-game press conference. Let's move on now to LeBron James passing Wilt Chamberlain for 5th all-time on the NBA's scoring list with a 44-point performance to go along with 10 rebounds and 9 assists in a 126-117 W over the visiting Portland Trailblazers. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, and LeBron James are the top 5 on the all-time scoring list as it stands this Thursday. So 44, 10, and 9. Once again, LeBron one stat shy of another triple-double. I don't know how many times that he's been a rebound or an assist shy of a triple-double. He's probably had 10 plus of those over the course of his career. But it's just a matter of securing that last board or a teammate making one more shot to get him to that double-digit figure. He had 3 blocks as well to go along, and in this one, he had a very confident stroke. LeBron, not the greatest three-point shooter in the world, but he was on fire to start this game, starting out 5 of 5 from downtown. In this one, he responded, hitting 13 of his 15 free throw attempts. As noted earlier, we all saw a handful of games where LeBron missed, clanked, LeBricked critical free throws down the stretch. How he missed 2 in a row against the Hawks and then had that game-winning putback dunk when Kyle Kuzma got the offensive board, put it back up, which J.R. Smith, you should have done in Game 1 of the finals last year, but that's beside the point. And ball ticked off, and LeBron dunked it down with 2 hands and for the game-winning dunk, I believe. And he's been bailed out by his defense a couple times. Tyson Chandler with a game-saving block a couple days ago to secure the victory for the Lakers in that very game against the Hawks. So, but yeah, that was a welcome sight for LeBron to hit his free throws, step up, hit him with confidence, and I've seen him over the course of his career switch up his free throw routines, during the games on a game-to-game basis. But it was really good to see that he stuck with one free throw routine only for this game against the Portland Trailblazers. He had multiple aggressive freight train type drives, setting up teammates beautifully, drawing double teams and putting the ball on point, on target to where only they could catch it and finish around the basket. Alonzo Ball, how about him? He was 3 for 5 from beyond the arc. LeBron had 2 assists to him of stylish fashion. And like I mentioned, 5 of 5 3-pointers made. He had a 30-foot buzzer beater before halftime, just invading Steph Curry range from right there, man. We just got to enjoy greatness for what it is. For this man to do what he's doing in his 16th season in the league with that many miles on that body, going to the finals 7 straight times, it truly is unbelievable. We've never seen anything like this before. This kind of his kind of versatility, his kind of sustainability, and that old phrase rings true. The best ability is availability. That's what it is. So it appears that the Lakers have righted the ship. They are approaching back to being 500. I think they are beginning to find a rhythm with themselves, beginning to trust each other, beginning to click on multiple cylinders, if not all of them. And Brandon Ingram playing well, Josh Hart playing well. It's just a matter of can LeBron sustain this kind of play, this level of play, because we saw this. He has a much less role, much less stress on him to handle the ball. Like in Cleveland, we saw over the last 3-4 years, it would just be him dribbling at the top of the key 5, 6, 7 times before finally driving and then kicking out to a shooter. It would just be 1 or 2 pass possessions with LeBron James trying to go one-on-one, trying to dance on people, just because Kyle Korver or J.R. Smith or Kevin Love was struggling. if LeBron struggled, that entire team struggled. And he actually has playmakers on this team now with Rondo, with Mike Beasley, JaVale McGee, an imposing defensive, not a threat on the perimeter, but around the basket it's tough to finish over him, so he's manning the paint. Tyson Chandler, I think, was a huge addition. Defensively, giving them kind of a defensive identity was something that they didn't have in the early going, but the Lakers are hitting the ground running in this early season, and kind of a late start, but better late than never. And how about Carmelo Anthony, 16th year man? Melo has been a DNP. He did not play the last 3 games for Houston, but his teammates and those close to him believe that he won't be on the roster for much longer. Rumors around the league are that the Rockets will inevitably waive Melo at some point soon, and it's just a matter of when. And that when comes today. Literally an hour ago, Carmelo Anthony was officially waived by the Houston Rockets. So, the big 3 idea with CP3, Harden, and Melo was really short-lived. It was a failed experiment. But NBA Hall of Famer Tracy McGrady, he vouched for Melo to retire, surprisingly, when he did get waived, or when he would get waived, claiming that Melo's legacy is already cemented, and there's no point in, quote, people pouring negativity on it from here on out. But shove NBA rings aside for just a second. We look back at this man's accolades, one of the most prolific, prominent scorers in NBA history, can do it from all 3 facets, from long range, mid range, and around the basket. He was a national champion at Syracuse. He's a 3-time Olympic gold medalist. He was a scoring champion back in 2013. He's a 10-time All-Star. He set the single-game scoring record at Madison Square Garden when he was with the Knicks with 62 points. I remember watching that game live on television. It was a sight to see. That man could not miss. He couldn't miss even if he was throwing it in the ocean. And he's the 3rd player in NBA history to average 20-plus points per game in 15 consecutive seasons. The only 2 other players to do that, the company that he's with, just some guys named Michael Jordan and LeBron James. Do they ring a bell? So the accolades, they run long. It's a long list for Carmelo Anthony now in his 16th season. He was in that same draft class with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and of course LeBron James and Paul and James, of course, that part of the Banana Boat crew along with Dwayne Wade. And it was just kind of a shame. I would love to see them all on the same squad and make that Banana Boat squad come true. But yeah, I don't want to say that Melo is a bad person by any stretch. He's not a bad teammate by any stretch of the imagination. It was just a bad fit. The teams he's been on recently with the Knicks, with the Thunder, and with Houston, it just didn't really fit well. He didn't fit well with Russell Westbrook, Paul George, and OKC. He didn't fit well with another dynamic duo in the backcourt with CP3 and Harden. With the Knicks, the way that he was treated by Phil Jackson, who was then the president of basketball operations at the time, he handled himself with such professionalism. He never lashed out, but he did that. He did have that opportunity before signing that near supermax deal with the Knicks to go to Chicago with a prime Derrick Rose and Joakim Noah, with Luol Deng when he was still a walking bucket, with Derrick Rose, of course, and that would have been a huge force, a major force in the Eastern Conference to combat LeBron James, of course, but that never came to fruition. Nonetheless, I think it might be time for Carmelo to hang it up, unless it's, he's made it clear that he doesn't want to come off the bench. He made that clear in OKC. He accepted that role in Houston. Sure, he can come off the bench to score 6 or 8, but the way the NBA has changed from right under his feet, valuing versatile wings, the 3 and D guys who can do it on both ends of the floor, Melo is just not that person anymore. And we argued, I think probably a year ago today, is Carmelo a top is he still a top 20 player? Is he still a top 25 player, top 50 player? I still think he's a top 50 player, but just a year ago we'd say we'd argue, he's a top 5 small forward in this game. Oh, he's a top 20 player. Oh, he's a top 30 player. Those days are long gone, and it's a shame, but he might have something still left in the tank. I really hope he proves me wrong, but with the recent situations that he's been thrust into, I think it's time to call it a career. Let's take a quick break before we transition into the NFL here on Sports Weekly. Once again, I'm Dale Watkins. We're going to take a quick break here on 90.5 KSJS and be right back after this.
The views and opinions of the following program are not necessarily those of KSJS, its staff, students, San Jose State University, or the CSU, who are the license holders of this station. Any comments or questions, please write to KSJS at 1 Washington Square, San Jose, California, 95192-0098. Attention, Nick Martinez.
And welcome back inside Sports Weekly on 90.5 KSJS. I'm Dale Watkins once again. Thank you all for tuning in to this weekly episode of Sports Weekly every Thursday afternoon, 5 to 6 p.m. on none other than 90.5 KSJS. I'm running solo today, but that is not a problem because I'm holding it down, which I think I'm doing a pretty good job of. We talked our fair share of basketball. Let's transition now into the NFL. Sport that I've become more passionate about ever since my time here at San Jose State. Let's start off with the Oakland Raiders. They fall to 1-8 in a lifeless 20-6 loss at home. Just a tank, baby. That's the motto now for the Raiders. They drop to a league worst 1-8, and yet another L that they add to that collection, falling to the LA Chargers 20-6. The Raiders now losers of 4 consecutive games against their AFC West foe, Chargers. Chances were definitely there for this Raider team to potentially upset the hottest team in the NFL, but ultimately Gruden's offense has been stuck in neutral at best. It's continued to struggle to put points on the board, devoid of a touchdown in the team's last 9 quarters. There's no vertical passing attack. There's no more dynamic receiving threats now that Martavis Bryant is out with injury. Jordy Nelson is out with injury. Amari Cooper is in Dallas. Seth Roberts not performing up to his potential. His most reliable target is Brandon LaFell, the recently acquired Carolina Panther, and he's still learning the playbook. But no downfield passing attack, no receiving threat that kind of jumps out at you, jumps off the roster, and no consistent production from Derek Carr's offensive line. It's an offensive line that has been banged up, it's been beaten, it's been thrown around, and starting 2 rookies on both sides, left tackle and right tackle. It's hard to win football games when you have inexperience on Derek Carr's blind side and front side. Derek Carr was sacked 4 more times in this game. He's been one of the top 5 most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL this season. But, tank season, it's in full effect, and these Raiders, man, they really should be winless and deserve to be. I think that win against Cleveland was kind of a fluke. They got a really, really gracious call that would have, essentially ended the game. They got the ball back. It was Carlos Hyde that appeared to have gotten the first down. He was short. Browns punt the ball away. Raiders get the ball back. They score. But the Browns, I guess, are still salty about that one, losing to the worst team in football in the Oakland Raiders. Only real highlight in this game was the punter. And when your punter is one of your best players on the field, there is a problem. But he took full advantage of faking a punt and had a huge run up the sideline of 40-plus yards. But the Raiders are going to Raiders, and they failed to score on first and goal from inside the 5 and failed to punch it into the end zone on a 4th and 1 pitch play. 0 touchdowns in these last 3 games as a team for the Raiders, and when are they going to get that field goals do not win games? You need 7s and not 3s in today's NFL. In today's high-scoring NFL landscape, scoring is up dramatically than in past years across the league. I think the defense played pretty well. They held L.A. I was tempted to say San Diego, but they tempted the Chargers. They played them well. They held them to under 7 points below their usual scoring average. They got some pressure up on Phillip Rivers. They knocked him around a bit, but explosive plays continue to be the Raiders' Achilles heel. They continue to haunt the secondary of this Oakland Raiders. I mean, Marcus Gilchrist, Garyon Conley, and Nick Nelson, they've been getting manhandled by receivers week in and week out. I mean, just look at Melvin Gordon, who just raced ahead 66 yards untouched and just made Garyon Conley miss, and he made Carl Joseph miss on that particular run. It was tough to watch, and it takes John Gruden said about Colton Miller, the Raiders left tackle, like, he's going to be a star in this league, that you really got to be mentally tough to play that position. Yeah, well, you'd need to be mentally tough just to watch a dang Raider game, But yeah, just tank, baby. I know this draft, in terms of defense, is going to be huge. Raiders are near the bottom of the league in rush yards allowed and points per game allowed. So I want Nick Bosa personally, or Ed Oliver out of Houston. He's a monster on the defensive side of the ball. Raiders will travel now to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. If you can't win this one, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I mean, you lost the Niners 34-3. I mean, you can't beat teams that you're supposed to beat, but this season is in the dumpster. So I'm looking to get that number 1 pick. So there's no point in winning meaningless games as the Giants did against the 49ers, which is where I'm going now. The Giants defeat the 49ers 27-23. A game-winning drive engineered by Eli Manning shed a lot of doubt surrounding the 2-time Super Bowl champion of his job security and whether he had anything left in the tank, as the Giants came into Levi's to take down the 49ers in a much more exciting game than the matchup on paper showed. Manning, he emerged as the winner of the rookie and the vet duel against undrafted rookie pickup Nick Mullins, which I know a lot of Niner fans are familiar with that name now, probably becoming a household name, who came back down to earth in his second start after a sensational NFL debut against the Raiders, with C.J. Beathard out with injury. Of course, Jimmy G done for the season with a torn ACL. San Francisco surged to a 20-10 lead mid-third quarter when Nick Mullins capped off an 11-play, 60-yard drive by hitting Matt Breida, who soared high to haul in the 11-yard touchdown pass. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., the star receiver for the Giants, he had an immediate response to that, scorching the Niner defensive back on a wheel route for his second touchdown of the game, a ball perfectly placed by Manning to where Beckham Jr. could only catch it. The teams then exchanged field goals as SF clinged to a 23-20 lead with 2:46 to play, but that was more than enough time for Eli Manning to lead the G-Men convincingly down the field before firing to Sterling Shepard for the game-winning score. Just evaluating this game altogether, Eli Manning had all day to throw. There was minimal pressure put on by the 49ers. Eli's white jersey was pretty devoid of any grass stains, anything like that. But the one bright spot, I was really impressed with George Kittle, who continues to have a breakout sophomore season. He had 9 receptions for 83 yards. It appeared that he was wide open on every single target by Nick Mullins, and an awesome stat, a surprising stat that I came across today. His 4 years at Iowa, he has more catches and receiving yards in 10 games in this one season with subpar quarterbacks, with C.J. Beathard and a rookie in Nick Mullins. He has more catches and receiving yards in 10 games this season than in all 4 years at Iowa. So Kittle, I'll definitely thrust him into the conversation as a top 5 tight end, up there with the likes of Rob Gronkowski, even though he's banged up. He's injured right now. Zach Ertz, Travis Kelce. He was in the same draft class last year, or 2 years ago, with O.J. Howard and David Njoku. So George Kittle making a name for himself, earning those stripes in Santa Clara. And I wonder how Giants fans should feel after this win. I mean, they're kind of in the same territory. They're still vying for that number one pick, as are the Raiders. They're in the same kind of boat. Should Giants fans feel happy about this win when they should be looking, down the road, big picture, when looking ahead to draft position? I mean, they just won a meaningless game. They're still last in the NFC East. Nothing has really changed. You just lowered your chances of getting that number one pick. So you got to think long term here. Giants tanking. They can't even do that right. So they're in the same boat as the Raiders. But 49ers have a bye before a tough second half of the season slate of games. They still have to play the Rams down in L.A. That'll be, I think it'll be a rout in favor of the 9-1 Rams. But the Niners certainly do have a much more promising future, at least in the short term, than the team across the bay. Let's talk a little bit of San Jose State football. They got blown out against the 14th ranked Utah State Aggies, 62-24 last Saturday. Utah State amounted 804 yards of total offense for Utah State. It was a school record. It appears that they had just been, putting up school record after school record against the Spartans. It seems like every school is breaking some kind of record against San Jose. San Jose, they scored first with a Trey Jenkins 41-yard scoop and score off a muffed punt, which made it 10-10. But then Utah State came back and scored 35 unanswered and scored at will damn near every possession. So just clearly overmatched the Spartans were against the 14th ranked team in the nation. 62-24 was the final. Final game at SJSU Stadium is this Saturday. I will personally be on call for that one, providing play-by-play commentary for 90.5 KSJS. Be there, 2 p.m. at SJSU Stadium, San Jose State versus Nevada. That'll be senior night for 10-plus seniors on the Spartan squad. And turn up at the pregame beer fest. $25 gets you unlimited beer from 12 to 2. And should be a good one. Let's take one more quick break, and when we come back, I will cover the men's and women's basketball teams and college football Week 12 picks. We'll be right back on Sports Weekly right after this. And welcome back to Sports Weekly here on 90.5 KSJS. I am Dale Watkins, once again back with you. In this last block, I will be talking a little bit about some Spartan men's and women's hoops. The men, Spartan men, they fall to 1-1. They lose to Southern Utah Saturday night here at the Event Center. 66-59 was the final score in that one. The Spartan men, looking at this team from top to bottom, a lot of new faces, a lot of talented, athletically raw freshman guards, I would say. But I think it'll be tough to replace the three transfers, three of the leading scorers, three of the leaders from last year's team. Ryan Wellage, Keith Fisher, and J.C. Hillsman. They were all gone. Ryan Wellage, of course, the leading scorer of the Spartans last year. He transferred over to Xavier, so his time with the Spartans is up. He will be eligible to play next season. and he's going back to his home state of Indiana. So that his team desperately needs a versatile wing, 6'9", can shoot it, stroke it, and he gets to be closer to his family as well. So best of luck to Ryan Welledge the rest of his college career. And J.C. Hillsman, Keith Fisher, they're a package deal. They transferred out from San Jose State to Eastern Illinois. They're native Chicagoans, and two junkyard dogs that just get after it on the defensive glass, the offensive glass. So those three guys, it might be tough to replace them on this very young men's team. They did get 15 points from Craig Lesesny. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the men are at Damian Lillard's alma mater, Weber State, tonight for game number 3 on the season as they look to get above 500 for the first time this season. As for the women, they were crushed 80-51 at Portland State. In Portland State, the highlight of that game was that Portland State went on a 23-2 run. It was 42-11 at half in favor of Portland State. Spartans subject to a 4-point second quarter. That is a historic low for the Spartan women. There was just a lid on the basket. Couldn't throw it in the ocean. Couldn't buy a bucket, even if it was half off. But there were just several scoring droughts for the Lady Spartans, but they made it close. They fought back. It was they kept the margin, the scoring margin, close in the second half. But by then, there was just too deep of a hole. There was just too much ground to make up, and Portland State went on to their 29-point victory. Michaela Wilson, she had 14 points, 5 rebounds. Fiameha Foca, she was lighting it up from long range. She had 3 threes of her own. Nonetheless, the Spartan women, they're 0-3, they're winless, but look to get in the win column this Saturday at noon, right here at the Event Center when they host Cal State Bakersfield. And Bakersfield kind of struggling as well, so two teams in desperate needs of a win. And last but not least, the highlight marquee matchup in the NFL goes down on Monday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs at the LA Rams, battle of two 9-1 teams, and honestly, it might be a Super Bowl preview. This is going to be a matchup of two heavyweights, two high-powered, high-octane offenses going at it. Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, two of the most electrifying young quarterbacks in the league, and both in just their second year. So, but they're playing like seasoned veterans out there, and just lighting it up, and leading their respective teams to top seeds in their divisions and conferences. And of course, both these teams have to be in the West, so it is the wild, wild West. But the over and under on this game is a whopping 63.5 points. So, two of the highest scoring teams in the league. It's only fitting. I wish I could pick a team here, but I just want to enjoy some good football. So it's gonna be going down Monday night at the LA Coliseum. That game that was originally scheduled to be at Estadio Azteca, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, in Mexico City, but it got moved to LA just a few days ago with inclement weather ruining the grounds there at the Mexico City Stadium. I think it was Shakira that was just performing there a couple days ago, and tattered the grass there at the stadium as well, and a ton of rain and fog and cloudiness really made the surface unplayable. It was surprising the Chiefs and Rams were actually plotting to boycott the game because of unsafe playing conditions. And they were successful. They got the attention of the NFL and the NFLPA, and got that game moved. It is now a home game for the LA Rams, even though it feels like that any game in LA, be it Rams or Chargers, feels like an away game just because the other team's fans turn up and come out in full force for the opposition. But the Rams will be without Cooper Kupp, who is gone. He is done for the season with a torn ACL, and which is kind of unfortunate. The Rams offense halfway compromised, but looking for Brandon Cooks to have a huge game. I'm really looking for the Rams secondary, the linebackers to really step up. You know, Marcus Peters, we all know, he's been getting torched lately, especially by Michael Thomas of New Orleans. So we need to I want to see a better game, better performance overall by Marcus Peters in the secondary. And can the Chiefs defense, which is in the bottom third of the league in points per game allowed, can they bottle up this lightning of an offense in the LA Rams? Can they stop Jared Goff? Can they get him on the ground just a little bit? I think that'll be a major key. Maybe rough him up a little bit, get the defensive lineman in his face, put their hands up and make it tough on him. But it's hard to stop either one of these two electrifying quarterbacks. That'll be. I'm gonna go grab my popcorn and gummy bears for that game. Monday Night Football, Chiefs Rams, battle of 9-1 teams, and we are nearing the top of the hour here on 90.5 KSJS, and that is going to do it for us here on Sports Weekly. Thank you all again for tuning in. Stay tuned for Debo on her show, A Vibe Called West, every Thursday evening from 6 to 10 p.m. here on 90.5 KSJS. Once again, I'm Dale Watkins. Thank you so much again, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of Sports Weekly. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, Thursday, 5 to 6 p.m., 90.5 KSJS. Have a great night, everybody. Cool. Those are all my notes.